INSiiGHTS Sports Talk.
1, 2, talk and talk.
INSiiGHTS Sports Talk. Traveling the country for the biggest stories in collegiate sports. Bringing you the news that will impact every college athlete in America. From the Ivy League to the SWAC, Big Sky to the Big Ten, Notre Dame to Grambling U, Miami or Maine. No university is too big, no college too small. We tell it all. INSiiGHTS Sports Talk with your hosts, the Coach, Mickey Clayton and Clayton Smith. They're bringing you insight on all the latest stories from all the biggest names in collegiate sports. Join us for the next 60 minutes for INSiiGHTS Sports Talk. The sports talk show of a different kind.
The mic is open. I'm your host, Mickey Clayton, the Coach, and you are our guest on this edition of INSiiGHTS. This show is entitled Women in Sports and Title IX 40 years later. We do have a special guest, Rob Moramarco, who was involved in a suit within the state of Florida 3 years ago. But we also have additional comments from some of our INSiiGHTS guests who share with you their thoughts about Title IX and how the young ladies on their respective campuses have been integral parts of the athletic department's success. We have a real good commentary from BCU, Bethune-Cookman's athletic director, Lynn Thompson, who spoke about his university being cited as not being in Title IX compliance and how they corrected the issue and how firmly committed Bethune-Cookman University is to being in compliance with the federal mandate. We also have information from another athletic director, Bill Hayes, at Winston-Salem State University. In today's show, we will talk about what is Title IX, why it was needed, and what were some of the advantages and disadvantages of the legislation being passed. Did it help girl athletes and women's athletics? Even our Punch and Counterpunch session will deal with if it was good legislation or did it really set back the men's programs. But before we do that, let me thank all of our listeners who have been tuning in at an increased rate to INSiiGHTS. It took us 7 shows to reach our first 1,000 listeners on INSiiGHTS. To reach our second 1,000 listeners, it only took 4. We are so appreciative of you listening in. There are so many of you that have helped us behind the scenes to assist us in this project. You're listening to the show, then sending a link and the emails to others to listen to it. You post it on your Facebook page and make comments on it. The encouragement from you to us, it has really humbled us by the responses we have gotten. It really has. Thank you. That's all we could say. We have had so many people that have supported us, both new friends and old friends. Old friends like John Grant of the Atlanta Classic and new ones like HBCU News. At hbcunews.net, both of them really help to spread the information about INSiiGHTS. Follow them. They have supported us. John Grant and Atlanta Classic, they were our first 200 show and stayed there until Dr. Humphrey's Part 1 knocked him off that throne. I really didn't know that Dr. Grant was even aware that Dr. Humphreys had become number 1 until he told us, "I heard I'm not number 1 anymore, that Dr. Humphreys knocked me off." I laughed at him. John said he wanted a rematch. I was still laughing, but John wasn't. He did get his rematch and has blown by everyone as the sights and sounds of the Atlanta Classic is our number 1 show. Thanks for opening the Classic up to us. Now we want to give you a little bit of a tease about next week's show. It will be the second edition of our Legend Series, and we will feature the legendary coach turned athletic director, William Bill Hayes. In North Carolina, and especially at Winston-Salem State, he is there. Eddie Robinson, there Jake Gaither. Speaking of Jake Gaither, I just heard the University of Miami take FAMU's legendary football coach Jake Gaither's famous words and use it in their pregame. Did you hear it? It said, "What are we? Agile, mobile, hostile." The words of Jake just keep on resonating through football. Anyway, we asked one of Coach Bill Hayes' players to tell us a story about Coach Hayes in the locker room. Here is one story he shared with me.
Well, I mean, it's just so many things that, Coach have done for us in the locker room and things he have touched us to motivate us. It's like a time that we was playing Hampton University, and Coach came in there at halftime and said, man, Coach Gaines going to fire me. You know what I'm saying? He's going to fire me. He said, I'm going to lose my job, man. He like some tears came out of his eyes, and that raised the whole locker room. And we went out there and whipped Hampton so bad that, you know, it was just a wonderful experience. You know what I'm saying?
Whew, that's a good one. The poor kids had to show the rich kids how to play. Knowing Coach Hayes, there were a few dams and asses in that story. I can guarantee you that. Because, you know, he uses that salty language that the rest of us don't use. Excuse me. Remember to turn in the next week's show or go back to last week's popular show. But Insights has something for everybody. But let's get ready for this show as we take a break and come back with the Professor, Big Al. He and I are going to talk about women in sports in Title IX after this break. Insights will be back. Remember, Insights, I-N-S, 2 I's in the middle, GHTS, Insights.
1, 2, talk that talk.
Let me tell you something. If you took away the money, if you took away the fame, the spotlight, if you took away the lifestyle and all the things that come with it, if you took away all the flash, what would you have left? Everything.
And this is Mickey Clayton, and I'm back with the Professor, Big Al. Al, we talking about a topic we know something about. It seems like we were around when all this was unfolding, weren't we?
Title IX, you better believe it.
Man, it kind of changed the face of athletics a lot when that really got instituted, and they decided in 78 they were going to really apply those laws to it. Tell us a little bit about it, Big A.
Well, Title IX actually was signed into law in 1972 by Tricky Dick, Richard Nixon.
Tricky Dick, all right.
Tricky Dick, Richard Nixon.
He tricked a few people, too.
Yeah, he sure did. before they caught him. Barbara Jordan barbecued his behind. He said, well, let me go on. I'm not a crook. But anyway, it was basically set up to try and make sure that there was a level playing field for education and for employment for women. But eventually, by like 1978, they started really applying it across the board. And athletics, college athletics was one area where it was applied, you know, with the idea that because most schools were getting federal money, like financial aid and whatever, that since it was a federal law, that federal regulation should apply to colleges as far as academics, not just the education side.
Well, really, Title IX is a short and very simple federal law. It says, no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any educational program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. So actually the law is broader than just athletics.
Right.
But what we hear about more than anything else is how the law affected athletics.
Well, I think that's because, you know, since it started out in 72, it was coming on the heels of civil rights, and it was really more or less trying to open things up, just like affirmative action did for minorities, was open up the markets for women to be able to have, you know, more opportunities. I think athletics, with the visibility that it has, just kind of overshadowed the other parts of the law, the other issues that the law is trying to address.
right? And I think part of what people don't really understand is that based on the percentage of female students that attend your institution, that's supposed to be the number of athletic opportunities that your students have to participate in.
That's correct. That's one of the, I think there's like 3 main guidelines, and you're supposed to use at least 2 of them or whatever, but that's how you really judged on whether or not you're complying with the law. And that would be a major issue with some schools like HBCUs, where we know that the majority of the student body, the percentage, is predominantly female.
We have a clip here from Rob Moramarco and some of the things that he was involved in with the Title IX suit. But we discussed a little bit about how the NBA has stepped out and tried to do some things to help finance the WNBA.
Title IX has definitely brought a lot of things forward. The NBA, of course, helped get the WNBA started. Now a majority of the owners are have sold off to people that are outside of the NBA itself. Some made mistakes, and it cost them their franchise. And then there's some that are absolutely thriving. I think that the original WNBA kind of bit off initially more than what they could chew. They went into these gigantic arenas, and it's like, okay, well, who's to say that you're going to sell out this gigantic arena, Orlando, Miami, if you don't really know what the product is. You don't want to be and this is definitely not a shot here, but you don't want to be Vince McMahon with the XFL. Everybody show up the first day and then never come back, and next thing you know, your product's dead in 2 weeks. So it's definitely helped by getting equal, I guess you would say, airtime. A lot of good things have been put out there by at least the national news networks. I feel like ESPN, though they haven't done 50-50, they at least acknowledge, and they do show some highlights. A lot of your national publications, or a lot of us read online now, they have certain sections. They try to keep it updated. They try to keep it fresh. One thing I do just about every day, Fox Sports and on ESPN, I'll go to the women's basketball section, see if there's an article or see if there's an update, and sometimes they break news that I hadn't heard about yet. So I'm like, ooh, that's kind of interesting. Or, right now they just kind of write about, they're writing about the WNBA playoffs, stuff like that.
And the WNBA, has been struggling a little bit, but I think more than anything, what really hurt it wasn't so much Title IX and people not being interested, but a lot of it, the WNBA actually marketed to a certain audience, and as a result, the people who really watch and support athletics are mainly the male audience.
Right.
And when you kind of exclude it kind of makes it a little bit more difficult, because as we go through it, they didn't want male announcers on TV. They didn't want male officials. They didn't want male coaches. And the people who were really supporting basketball were men. And we have a lot of women that enjoy playing the game and participate in the game. But when you almost exclude the men from being involved in it, originally it just kind of hurt them in terms of drawing people.
Well, yeah, and I guess to a certain extent, you haven't coached the women and you're still coaching, AAU. I guess you could almost understand to a certain degree. You want young ladies, and as probably part of the Title IX, the long term, you want ladies to feel like I can be an official, I can be a coach, I can be an announcer, not just play. It's the same thing we used to say about blacks. The only thing we could do is play sports. We never could be the general manager, couldn't be a head coach, couldn't be a quarterback, that type of thing. So maybe that was their thinking was we wanted to be able to show, since they're marketing to young ladies and women, that there are opportunities in these areas, not just being, just the talent, so to speak.
But sometimes that pendulum swings the other way.
Right.
And as a former women's basketball coach, head women's basketball coach. To be honest, I faced more sexism recruiting than I did racism. And I'll say that in terms of a lot of times the female high school coaches wanted the student athletes to go to female college coaches. And it wasn't so much for me that I experienced black and white. I experienced more male-female. That they didn't want the particular young lady to go play for a male coach. And I would remember that if we were trying to track a kid or find out information about him, they would send a group to go over to see what was said. And he was talking to that male coach and see if he sent somebody over there to see who they're trying to talk to. It was really kind of bad, especially in certain parts of the state of Florida. It was really bad. And it wasn't racial. It was not racial. It was sexist, which really was very surprising for me to deal with.
Well, and I think too, we all remember, the scandal at University of South Carolina where that made Sports Illustrated, where the coach was making comments about the appearance of young ladies they were trying to recruit. So we know that's an aspect of, women's athletics that, especially now everything's so PC with the don't ask, don't tell, but yet we, that kind of, that like you said, that kind of gets in the way sometimes because, instead of just saying, hey, we're going to have a level playing field, whatever, it does seem as though the sexist side does come out in this case. So.
And it goes to something that we've talked about in some of our production meetings a little bit in terms of a coach and his involvement or his or her involvement into the so-called personal life of your student athletes. Where does it stop? Where does it start? How far should you go? How far should you not go? And with that, INSiiGHTS is going to take a break. And we'll come back. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook. INSiiGHTS, 2 I's in the middle. INSiiGHTS, INSiiGHTS.
1, 2, talk that talk.
When it comes to being better, what's better? Being better or worse?
Better!
Okay, and what are you better at?
I'm better at telling jokes.
Okay, let's see what you got.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Queen.
Queen who?
Queen, my dishes, please.
Clean.
It's Queen to make it funny.
He doesn't get it.
It's not complicated. Better is better. And AT&T is the nation's fastest and now most reliable 4G LTE network.
Punch again, and counterpunch. You got me here with Clayton Smith, and we're continuing our discussion on Title IX and some of the issues around it. What's your thought on Title IX, Clayton? You were active in the NBA and everything. What's your thought on it?
Well, I'm anti-Title IX. I don't think I think it needs to be reformed. What you're doing is you're really just killing off your men's sports, especially in college.
How are you cutting off your men's sports?
Well, the main thing is, the law says that you have to have proportionality, meaning your student body your athlete program has to reflect your student body, the gender of your student body. And nowadays, 57% of the undergraduates in the U.S. colleges and universities are women. Yet, you have to go back and try to have the same type of proportions in your athletic department, and it's just not working right.
So why do you have to cut the men's sports? Why you don't increase your women's sports?
Well, because it's a budgetary situation. You don't have the money to increase a group of sports without decreasing on the other side. So that's where you have your conflicts.
See, I don't agree with that. It has to be proportionate. You have to treat them fair. But if you didn't have Title IX, you would not have the opportunities for women to compete scholarship opportunities to compete, salaries to be the same. None of that would exist without Title IX. Heck, with Title IX, it's still not fair and equitable. I'll guarantee you there's probably not 20 basketball coaches in the country where the women coaches and the men coach make the same thing.
Well, that's true, but the revenue generated is not fair either.
But see, basically, Title IX requires schools to spend equally on male and female sports, and I just don't see how there could be anything wrong with that, Clayton. And back before we had Title IX, I mean, you could almost forget a girls' basketball team. The men's coach got a full salary. The women's coach got a supplement, and it was somebody who was teaching science that didn't know anything about the sport, and they just grab them and have them as coaches. And it just wasn't close to being equitable.
Okay, well, I'm not going to disagree that the level of coaching has gotten a whole lot better with the implementation of Title IX. But where you really skew away from what is right is when you have 85 scholarships you got to get of football players. And then you got to turn around and drop men's track and field like University of Maryland had to do. Just because you need to have, and you have to add a rowing team and an equestrian team on the women's side just to be in compliance with Title IX.
Right, and that's because you have, when you don't have that, you're in trouble. And you have to have the same number of opportunities. Even now, today, even with the report, there's still 1.3 million fewer chances to play sports in high school for girls than it is for guys. And then it's not even equal among ethnic groups. Fewer than 2/3 of African American and Hispanic girls play sports, while more than 3/4 of Caucasian girls do. 3/4 of boys from immigrant families are involved in athletics, while fewer than half of the girls from immigrant families are. In addition to having fewer participation opportunities, girls endure inferior treatment in terms of equipment, facilities, coaching, scheduling, and publicity. You can pick up any newspaper and see basketball and all the things that are written in basketball for men's basketball in the back. They just got a little blurb about women. And that's not equitable, and that's not fair. And that doesn't have anything to do with money. You know, that just has to do with trying to make the public aware of them.
Well, okay, I agree with that, but also on the flip side.
Punch, and a counterpunch, and it was a weak counterpunch. He's out. He's on my side today, y'all. He's
not on your side.
He's on my side. That got weak as pre-sweetened Kool-Aid today. He on my side. We're going to wrap this up because he's out. He gave him a standing 8 count, y'all. Y'all come back next week, and maybe he'll be back and be revived. We'll get it ready to go next week. Punch.
And this is under protest.
And we out. Stay with Insights. We'll be back.
1, 2, talk that talk.
I'm waking up to ash and dust. I wipe my brow and I sweat my rust. I'm breathing in the chemicals. I'm waking up. I feel it in my bones and I'm doing.
Hello? What up, Dre? Hold up, I gotta finish something. Talk to me.
Hi, sports fans. I'm Lynn Thompson, athletic director at Bethune-Cookman University. When I need to know information, I listen to Insights with Mickey Clayton.
Give me a little bit of information in terms of how, in the 22 years that you've been at Bethune-Cookman, share a little bit about what Title University and what your female athletes have done for your institution and for your sports programs.
Well, Mickey, that's a very good question. It's a timely one. Several years ago, we were cited, and we didn't even know anything about it until the national press contacted us amongst the Gang of 25 at the 25th anniversary of Title IX, where they cited us with Title IX violations at Bethune-Cookman. I think Hampton was one of the other MEAC schools cited. And you know, we were just floored. But it opened our eyes. We were able to be removed from the complaint, and we satisfied all of the guidelines. But it taught us a lesson, and I know you would know this more than anyone. In my house, I have 2 daughters, a wife, and a son. And if it were Democratic voting in the House, we would always lose 3-2. The males would. And so in your house, you've had some tremendous young ladies. Your daughters have been tremendous athletes, and so you want to make sure that they are afforded the same opportunities that their male counterparts would be afforded. And here's what we say at Bethune-Cookman. They wear maroon and gold. They sweat just as hard as a football player. They sweat just as hard as a baseball player. They bring recognition to the university in the same way. And they deserve the same amount of respect. And when you look legally, we talk about the underrepresented sex in the athletic arena. That is why at Bethune-Cookman we sponsor more women's sports than men's sports, because we are seeking to accommodate the interests and the abilities of the underrepresented sex at our university in athletics, and those are the women's athletes. So what we've done, all of our sports are fully funded. We look up, and in fact, a majority of our women's sports programs have more coaches than our men's sports teams. We provide them the same levels of transportation. We make sure that we are on the cutting edge of any nuances that are developing in the industry as it relates to training methods and things like that. Our 2 new athletic facilities we have on campus, one of them will be earmarked specifically for women's sports. Our training rooms, our athletic trainers are all geared up to making sure that we are supporting every aspect of our program, regardless of whether they're male or female. And our women's sports in particular have done us a great service. Our softball program, as you know, has been a tremendous program for many, many years. Our women's golf team is I'll tell you, that's basically a dynasty in the making for us in HBCU golf. And we've made significant strides in the last 5 years with our women's track and field program. And our women's basketball program is just about to turn the corner under Vanessa Blair.
Wow, that's impressive. And I think for the institution itself to realize that they needed to make some adjustments and then did so in the way that you did, exemplary.
1, 2, talk that talk.
But one of the things that's been important over the years, and you've been in the game a long time, Title IX came up and allowed for a lot more participation for young ladies in competitive sports. And what has Title IX done, or how do you handle it on your campus? How important are the female athletes to your program, and what they've done for Winston-Salem and some of the other places you've been?
Well, they're wonderful. They are really wonderful. They go hard. I mean, our women's track team, I come up sometimes 6 o'clock in the morning. I was out there, and they out there practicing in the mornings early. Our cross-country team, those women work extremely hard, and they're very dedicated. And so I'm a proponent of Title IX and making sure that things are equitable. I have always tried to go to their practices. I go to their games. I go to softball games, volleyball games. I try to make sure. And I tell you something, Mickey, I got a phobia about it, because what I would never want is for one of those young ladies to say, he don't care anything about us, all he cares about football. Because I was a football coach, the assumption is that I'm going to do everything for football and I don't care about them. So then I'm going to flip it and go overboard to make sure that they can never say that. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean? Yes. That's important to me. So I'm always at softball games, in person. I'm always going by volleyball practice, sticking my hand. I'm always going to go by to check our tennis team out, our women. I'm always going to go in to their matches and go out there and hit some balls with them every now and then to let them know that I care about them. That's important. So I'm for that, Mickey. I'm for Title IX. I'm for women's sports being upgraded and improved. I've tried to do everything I can here to make sure all our teams are competitive. You know, when we won 14 championships, our championships were, a lot of those were women's sports. You know, and we're going to mess around and win the volleyball championship this year. We hadn't won that, but I hired this young lady, and she is a ball of fire.
1, 2, talk that talk.
Let's talk a little bit about Title IX.
Okay.
And we just Title IX just actually had its 40th anniversary last year. And could you tell our listeners a little bit about what was the intent of Title IX and why was it needed?
Well, the original intent was to bring equality between the genders, from scheduling to facilities to equal scholarships on the collegiate level, just being fair, to be honest with you, to both the genders. Title IX, I'll go ahead and discuss the case that we had, like you say, about 2 years ago with the Florida High School Athletic Association. They wanted to cut back all sports but football, the number of athletic contests. They were going to trim basketball, which is, my sport, to 20 games statewide. They didn't get any advice. They didn't get any input from the coaches. They didn't get any input from people of any sport. And so
they just kind of arbitrarily were trying to make a decision without input from the people it was affecting?
That is correct. And it was a little political too. Some of the superintendents, we went through I guess you could say the economic downturn. Money was becoming tight, and the superintendents didn't want to do it within their own individual counties, so they put pressure on Roger Deering. They put pressure on the FHSA board of directors to pass this blanket, everybody, all the circular pegs fit in square holes kind of policy, and it just didn't sit well with a lot of people, not just in basketball, but baseball, even a couple of tennis players and coaches were just adamant. But the major sports that it affected were, and this is definitely, basketball, softball, baseball for the boys, and then volleyball for the girls. Mm-hmm. And so we sat down and looked at everything, and I had contacted Nancy. Her last name's hyphenated. Hogshed Makar, who is an Olympian, phenomenal lawyer in Jacksonville. She does nothing but Title IX cases. She's been, in D.C. to Tallahassee to, she's everywhere. And so contacted her, and I communicated with her. We were actually friends beforehand. Mm-hmm. And I just said, Nancy, this is kind of the situation that's going on, and they're cutting everything basically back. And I explained to her, I use basketball, baseball, and volleyball, and I said, I believe we have a Title IX issue here with volleyball being cut back, but footballs are remaining the same at 10 games plus a kickoff classic or preseason classic. And I said, that's not right, because now you're limiting opportunities strictly for the volleyball teams, and then of course they're affecting all sports. And make a long story short, we filed I got with Kayla Brewer, who went off and played at South Carolina and then at the University of Texas, and she represented, her and her parents represented basketball, and then we had some other sports represented. We filed a case in court, and the judge put an injunction against the rule first, and then right before it went to trial, the FHSAA definitely pulled way back. It ended up costing them, and this is public record, you can find it on the internet, I believe it cost them either 140 or 190. My memory's kind of vague on that part, but it cost them, a lot of money, and we'll just say $140,000 just for argument's sake. And of course, where do they get their money from? From their membership, from coaches' fines, but mostly from membership dues that, schools like, say, up in Tallahassee, FAMU High, Florida High, Rickards High, all of them paid dues to keep the FHSAA going. And so bottom line is that the schools paid for the association's mistake, and it didn't sit very well with some of the people that wanted the reduction. I mean, I still talk to quite a few people that work for the FHSAA. They understood why I did what I did, and they won't tell me good job, but I can just tell by the comments that they make that they were like, hey, you did the right thing, but they won't comment on it because they don't want to lose their jobs, their particular job.
Well, Rob, tell me this: why after 40 years we're still fighting this battle for Title IX? Why is it still a battle after 40 years?
Well, everybody wants to take the easiest way out. What's the easiest way out? Cut. If I can do it without anybody noticing, does it make a sound? Does a tree fall if a tree falls and nobody's around, does it make a sound? So, it's people have to be attentive and sometimes you have to be aggressive. I'm one of the most laid back people in sports, but it's like, hey, you're doing something wrong here. I'm going to definitely, my pastor yesterday called me a rebel. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be vocal when I have to be. Other than that, I'm going to be one of the most laid back people. Has it helped all sports? I don't think it has. Soccer, in certain cities, soccer is really, really, really loved, and then in other parts, it's it's just not grabbed onto by a nation yet. Softball, you don't see too much professional softball. The Olympics dropped it. I think they're bringing it back along with baseball. And I think it's 2016. So, but has it helped? Yes, it has helped.
Well, tell me this. Why does Title IX intimidate men's programs as much as it seems that it does?
People have the misunderstanding that, if I don't offer, say, women's basketball, we'll use women's basketball. If your school doesn't offer women's basketball, then you can't offer men, and that's not true. If there's not enough women to field a decent team, you can document that and you'll be fine. You can still have a men's team. What they try to look at is balance of numbers, and that's why the argument of, say, high school football balancing out with volleyball, it's just not going to happen, especially at bigger schools. It just doesn't happen. Right. So they try to, balance with cheerleading. They try to balance with volleyball. They try to combine those participation stats. And to me, that's okay. It's one of my friends who's an administrator goes, if you're willing to play volleyball, we'll get you on a freshman team or we'll get you on the JV team, and it counts as a number. You are a number. You are a statistic. You might not play in a game, but you're an important statistic as far as being able to field other programs. I know maybe it might have been 3 months ago, when Towson, I still call them Towson State, but Towson was going to cut their, baseball team, and the baseball team put black tape over over their school name because they were like, you guys didn't stand up for us. We're not going to necessarily play for you. And they played the rest of their season, most of the rest of the season, covering up the school logo on their baseball cap, covering up, black tape across their chest. It became a serious issue, but I did do a little follow-up on that, and, they did restore the program and kept it going. But, you just got to make sure that the numbers are right. Of course, money has to be, equal opportunity. You're not going to let say men's basketball go eat at Ruth Chris's Steakhouse all the time, and the women are going to go eat at, McDonald's off the dollar menu. You're not going to let, and vice versa. It works the other way too. The women, say the women's basketball team at Tennessee, they weren't able to just go to, the Don Cesar Hotel and the men's team when they weren't very good, they couldn't, you don't put them in the Motel 6. So they do check for things like that. It has to be documented, the amount of resources, the places that they're allowed to go to. If the men want to travel to Hawaii and the women want to go to the Bahamas, you can't say yes to one and no to the other. You gotta at least give them the opportunity.
Does this apply to the coaching staff and facilities as well?
Yeah, facilities is always the key one. If it wasn't for Title IX, and I live in Gainesville, Florida, you may have the men playing in the Stephen C. O'Connell Center and the women playing at Florida Gym. I mean, based on attendance figures. Up in Tallahassee, the men would be at the Leon County Civic Center. I still call it that. Sorry, Mr. Tucker. But that's what I know it as, and that's what I've always called it. As far as the women, they may still be at Tully Gym. Title IX really has allowed the equal opportunity. Has it been always a great thing? I'll use high school state basketball championships. The men sometimes will draw, 3,000 or 4,000 at the Lakeland Center. Sometimes, depending on the teams, if it's local, if they're really good matchups, they could actually, pack the whole arena, 5,000 or 6,000 people in the Lakeland Center. But no matter how great the girls' matchups are, they have a very hard time drawing to the Lakeland Center. And, sometimes there's 100, 200 people in a 5,000-seat arena or 6,000-seat arena, and they've got to cut half the arena off. And, they try to make it a little bit less cavernous, but there's only so much you can do. I know the Florida Association of Basketball Coaches, we've gone to the FHSA and tried to come up with some sort of mediation or somewhere where we can get a better atmosphere for the women's basketball state championships, because these kids are working hard to get there. They're getting to the Lakeland Center, to the Final Four, and they're playing in a kind of hollowed out arena. It's affected shooting percentages. I mean, a lot of kids that are usually decent shooters, I mean, they just get down there, that black wall is right behind the basket that they bring down. It's a black drape, and it just totally takes, depth perception away. And then the second half, all of a sudden you got this big old wide open arena, and it just, the kids really have trouble adjusting to it. But, really, to be honest with you, based on Title IX, the boys are playing there, so the girls are going to play there.
Okay.
So it does have its issues where it could be tweaked a little bit.
INSiiGHTS. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook. INSiiGHTS. 2 I's in the middle. INSiiGHTS. INSiiGHTS.
Uh-oh. Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Ronnie, how happy are folks who save hundreds of dollars switching to Geico? I'd say happier than a camel on Wednesday.
Hump day!
Get happy. Get Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
It's time for your meeting with the coach in the coach's office.
You are summoned to the coach's office for a conversation with the coach. There were two sides of my interview. This was the first time I had so much trouble trying to get people to interview for me, especially the women coaches. And it bothered me because I really wanted to have some women's points of view on this show. We had 5 or 6 people that we thought we were going to be able to interview, and each time something came up and they didn't seem to be interested. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe it wasn't. Someone told me I was the perfect person to be able to answer or share some insights to everybody, and I asked them why they said that. And they said, because, Coach, you coach men and women's basketball. They said, you also coach your daughters, and you were here when Title IX first started. They thought maybe I would have some ideas that I could share with everybody. Well, one thing I know, we really didn't have money to recruit. I mostly stayed in the spare bedrooms and in the den of the alumni of the school. I felt like a man without a home, going from spare room to spare room as alumni let me stay with them, feed me, and even gas in my little yellow Mazda RX-7. Yep, I had my big long, I had myself in a small. Anyway, I was squinched up in a Mazda RX-7. Did we have the same money as the men to recruit? I really don't know. I don't know what they had. I just know what I didn't have. But I couldn't use that as an excuse not to go out and find the players I needed to try to build a competitive women's program. We had a lot of successes coaching the women's team. Graduated a lot of young ladies. I remember one week we beat Georgia Southern, University of Florida, and Florida State in 1 week. Our fans were really going crazy in Gaither Gym. Top 10 in the Southeast in attendance. But when I coached the men, it was a much higher scale. The attention and notoriety. We won the MEAC tournament, won 4 games in 5 days. Did so with only 9 players, 7 on scholarship. We had to go on campus and get 2 walk-ons just to have enough kids. We were beat up and hurt and had a lot of kids that had knee injuries, didn't even make it through the season. We had to use T-Ray, our trainer, just to have 10 guys so we could scrimmage. Don Yeager helped encourage Sports Illustrated to do a story on us, and they did. I had a brother who knew Stuart Scott on ESPN, and he talked about us all the time. They had an interview on us with John Thompson, and people were saying that we had got to the tournament and that we went in as the 9th-ranked team in our league, won the tournament, and teams were saying that we didn't belong. And John Thompson said Florida A&M was able to do what everybody else tries to have their team do. They try to go to the tournament, win their tournament, and go to the dance. Florida A&M, under the direction of their head coach, Mickey Clayton, was able to do that, so I don't want to hear anybody else arguing about it. That's what John Thompson said. The difference in how we were covered between men's basketball and women's basketball was vastly different. The attention given to men is so much more than the women. But the people who watch sports the most, they're the men. And the men programs are long established. But the women programs are beginning to make up the ground. Daryl Jones, thanks for the encouragement and the words to be able to speak and share some of the thoughts and the insights that I had in those positions. Now, I, Mickey Clayton, want to say something to you, to each of you. And what I want to say to you is about insights and the success that we've had. And I want to say to you, if you have a dream, if you have something that you wish to do, no matter your youth or your seasoning, follow that dream. The road will always be full of people who will block you if you let them. The journey may seem dark, but stay the course. Your eyes will adjust. The days may be filled with storms and winds that seem to be never ending, but understand the rains may be washing away your problems. The winds may be clearing a path for you. Stay the course. Always know that when you stop dreaming, then you stop believing, you stop living. The coach says to you, always live the dream that is yours. The mic is closed.
Thanks to the crew. Alvin Hollins, our director and sometimes co-host. Clayton Smith, our co-host. Arnett Moore, our music producer. Julio, the voice of one, our blogger. And our producer, Gerald Tooks of G Square Productions. Talk to you soon. INSiiGHTS.